Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining the Pax8 Microsoft monthly update. We are excited to be here with you. I know it feels like we just had February, but there is a lot going on in the world of Microsoft, so we've got a lot coming up for you today. Want to make sure we're going through what is on the agenda for today. I'm going to roll through some introductions really quick so you know who is bringing you all of this content. We are going to go through program updates. Of course, we've got to hit on Microsoft Copilot, demystifying Defender, and lastly, we have MailGuard 365 joining us as well. So excited for the jam-packed session. As we go through today, please make sure you're posting all of your questions in the chat. We've got a big team on the back end to make sure that we are answering those questions in real time. We can come off mute, we can talk about them, we can answer them as we go, whatever makes the most sense. From our Pax8 side, these are your presenters today. If I've not had the pleasure of meeting you, I'm Kristen Fehrenbach. I'm the Senior Director of Microsoft Go-to-Market here at Pax8. You're going to hear from Devin Landtrip, Jake Humphrey, Elliot Chandler, and Matt Batterby as well. Additionally, from MailGuard, we've got Anwar, and I'm really excited for their presentation. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and say good morning to Devin. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Devin.
Good morning. I'm back again with the program updates, starting with the legacy to NCE seat-based migration that we've been talking about for a few months now. This started on January 11th. And just a reminder, this happens at your anniversary date. So it may not happen for the next year or so. It just depends on when your anniversary date is for those legacy subscriptions that you have. Just a reminder, the subscriptions will renew at 12 a.m. UTC. So this may be different than your time zone. So be sure to check out when UTC is for your area. And subscriptions will lock 48 hours prior. So if you plan to self-migrate or want to make any changes beforehand, you need to do that more than 48 hours before, or you won't be able to get into those subscriptions until after Microsoft forces them through the migration. Once they go through migration, this will open a 7-day modification window. So this window only opens if you let Microsoft do the migration for you. If you decide to self-migrate through our platform, that will not open a modification window because it's technically seen as an upgrade. So when this window opens after the Microsoft-led transition, you can go in there, make any changes, any cancellations, anything you need to do within that 7 days before it's locked into place. So keep in mind, you need to make sure you do that before the window closes or you'll be stuck. All subs will auto-migrate to an annual commitment. So just a reminder, with Legacy, there were no actual commitment terms. With NCE, there are monthly commitments and annual commitments. With the auto-migration that Microsoft is doing, you will move to an annual commitment. So if you want to switch to a monthly, you'll need to go in during that 7-day window and change your commitment term. Or like we said, self-migrate via Pax8, and you can change those terms beforehand, then you don't even have to worry about the migration. It will be set up with the same billing terms. So if you're on monthly billing terms or annual billing terms, that will match whatever your legacy subscription had before. Subscriptions tied to one another will all migrate on the same date as long as they're eligible. There are some subs that don't have an easy migration path that will need to be migrated manually. So if any of your subs are tied together and just one of those subs needs a manual migration, the other subs will not migrate. So just keep that in mind as we're getting close to the anniversary date and making sure that your subs that need manual migrations, you're going in there and doing that yourself. If a subscription has a schedule change, so this is something we can do in our platform. So if you've gone in and scheduled maybe seat changes or anything like that to happen at your anniversary date ahead of time, those will not work after the migration. So since the migration goes through Microsoft, it cancels out those changes. So you'll need to go in there and either self-migrate early so you can do those changes yourself, or if you wait for the migration, you'll need to go in during the 7-day window and action those changes manually since the schedule has changed. Self-migrating via Pax8. So obviously we encourage you to go ahead and migrate your subs before the Microsoft transition just to make sure you get everything you want correctly and there are no issues. but you just need to do this 48 hours prior to your anniversary date. So you can do this in the Pax8 Marketplace, and on the next slide, I'll show you where that little button is that you can press. You can only self-upgrade using the tool in our platform for products that have an equivalent offer. So like, for instance, I'll go into public sector a little bit more next, but if those subs weren't in the first wave of public sector and they don't have an NCE offer yet, you won't be able to use this upgrade tool in our platform. Upgrades partial or full, like I said, do not open this cancellation window since they're not seen as a new order, so they are permanent. So make sure you know exactly what you want to do before you go in there and self-upgrade. Prepaid annual legacy commitments that are upgraded midterm, they will automatically inherit the legacy commitment end date if you do it through our upgrade tool. So they will keep that same date. So even if you're upgrading midterm, if you want a new anniversary date, you'll need to go in and purchase the subscription on NCE and then go in and cancel the legacy so you get that new date with the NCE subscription. And then lastly, upgrading to NCE will create a new subscription ID. So you'll need to resync your PSA. So feel free to take a screenshot of the slide. I know it's a lot of information, but just want to make sure we have it all there for you to go back and look at. Okay, so this is where in our platform you can upgrade from legacy to NCE if all of your subscriptions are eligible. There's a little button right there that says upgrade. So you can do this in the platform. It'll prompt you to select your commitment date, your commitment terms, your billing terms, anything. You will be able to change your number of seats, whatever you need to do if you do this through our platform. Licenses will not need to be reassigned since they're not a new order. It's just an upgrade. Just a reminder, you will have that same date, anniversary date, and this tool can accommodate base licensing and add-ons as long as everything is migratable. If you have a subscription on an annual billing term, the upgrade will inherit the legacy renewal date and not start a new 12-month commitment. So just a reminder, you'll have to order on NCE and cancel the legacy if you do want a new date. Okay, so let's see, March 1st, 3-4 days ago, public sector was released on NCE. So this is waves 1 and 2 that were released on March 1st. We're still waiting on 3 and 4 in the next couple months. So May 1st, just a couple highlighted dates. May 1st, new subscription purchases for public sector products must be on newcomers. So after May 1st, you won't be able to purchase those legacy subscriptions any longer with new purchases. July 1st is when the Microsoft-led migrations will start for public sector. So obviously the commercial offers started on January 11th. July 1, your anniversary date after July 1 is when they will be shifted to newcomers. So just keep this in mind. It's going to be the same rules, same regulations with the commercial transition are going to go forward to the public sector. So just be aware of what public sector products have been released. And if you want to go ahead and migrate those after all of the waves have come out, we encourage you to do so. And obviously our NCE blog is where we keep all updated information. This is going to be your #1 reference tool for anything NCE, anything public sector, transition, billing terms, and anything NCE is going to be in this blog for your information. So, okay, AIP, Azure Information Protection Plan 1. This has kind of been a big topic the last couple months. So Microsoft put out an announcement last week that the AIP standalone SKU went end of sale on January 1st. So just a reminder, end of sale means that subscriptions that are already active, that have already been purchased, will continue to renew. There are just no net new purchases. So if you already have or have had AIP prior to January 1, that subscription will continue to renew. It will continue to function. You just won't be able to purchase that standalone SKU new any longer. If you need AIP services and you don't already have the standalone SKU, we encourage you to purchase an EMS SKUs. You can upgrade to Business Premium. Listed here are all of the other offerings that have the AIP services included. So feel free to screenshot this slide. AIP Unified Labeling, the add-on, is what will retire on April 1, 2024. So that's what Microsoft announced last year, and I think there might have been a little confusion on that. So only the Unified Labeling add-on is retiring on April 1. So after April 1, it will not renew and not have services. So if you're on legacy, the subscription will renew until your anniversary date, but after your anniversary date, it retires. You'll need to move to something different if you need that add-on SKU. And just a reminder, when things retire, partners are responsible for canceling this product in the Pax8 marketplace on or before their anniversary date to avoid charges for non-services. So if you have your anniversary date coming up for this unified labeling add-on that's about to retire, and you may not be using it or may not need it, go in there and cancel it just to be sure you're not charged any longer after the retirement. And lastly, Microsoft customer agreement updates. So Microsoft announced that they have made some tiny changes to the customer agreement, nothing that will affect the partner in any way, but they are asking some partners to go in and re-accept the MCA. So anybody who accepted the MCA prior to April 1 of 2023, so this is almost a year ago, will need to review and accept the new terms. If your customer was established after April 1, 2023, there's no action needed. They've already accepted the new terms, so they are good to go. We are still gathering more information on this, so we will notify partners in the upcoming months if we believe an MCA needs to be re-accepted, and obviously we'll reach out and communicate with you guys on instructions and how to do so in the Pax8 marketplace. But we do advise best practice is to keep your MCA as up to date as possible. So we will let you know when we have next steps, and we will reach out to you. So I'm going to pass it over to Elliot for the next section.
Hey, how you doing? I am just going to share my screen. 2 seconds. Perfect. Looks like that's coming through. Amazing. So, as you saw from the presenter slide, I'm Elliot Chandler. I'm the Global Director for Pax8's Azure Go-to-Market business. Before we go too deep into this, I want to address the elephant in the room. Why is the Azure guy talking about Copilot? Couple of reasons. One, Azure Copilot is coming. It's on the horizon. We don't have a hard date yet, but it is on its way. I also want to double check that we are understanding the kind of Azure play for modern workplace. So one of the big things that I've been talking to partners about is essentially what we have at the moment is Copilot for M365, a modern workplace component. There is a huge compelling event around this that makes sense for you to be having an Azure conversation with your customers. And compelling events are great. They come along every now and then. We just had the SQL end of support compelling event. It was a great conversation. And I believe Copilot, even for M365, is another opportunity for us to have an Azure conversation with our customers. So let's dive a little bit deeper into that. We have the AI strategy, and my colleague Britton, who is essentially the modern workplace queen for Pax8, did a great job of running through these steps in the last monthly update, right? So when it comes to developing an AI strategy, what does that look like for your customers? And it was essentially these 3 pillars. We start with the business strategy. What are your principles? What are your outcomes? And what are your capabilities? So sitting down, having that conversation with your customers around what does it mean to adopt AI? What do you want out of AI adoption? And then how do we build our capabilities to make sure we're doing as best we can when we adopt AI? I'm going to skip to step 3, which is drive adoption. So start with a small project, build business buy-in, monitor your solutions, and then work with Pax8 to make sure that you are getting the ability to scale those services. So what we've typically seen in the market is people start with step 1, skip to step 3. And the step 2 in the middle piece is really the kind of Azure play as well, which is how do we put a strategy together to make sure that their adoption is going to be smooth and that they're going to get the most out of their adoption of Copilot or any other AI solution. So the breakdown on this is unified security, identity access, and data management. So this is all things that you should be getting set up before you go live with a Copilot adoption or any AI adoption. So let's dig a little bit deeper into that transformation strategy. And what does that look like? Again, 3 pillars. We love 3 pillars: identity access, data management, and unified security. So you will have seen these slides before if you've been to the Modern Workplace Bootcamp and on last month's monthly update. But we're going to double click again on data management. So what do we mean by data management? This is kind of tackling the fragmented data story that customers have today. So what data do we have? Where is it? Do we know who has access to it? All of those good things. So the stat that we have in the middle, 75% of companies don't trust their own data. And the quality of AI depends on that data, right? So if we layer AI on top of shaky data, the quality of answers you're going to get is always going to be compromised by that data. It doesn't matter how good the AI is, it's still reliant on that underlying data. So if we haven't taken the time to make sure that that data is in the correct state, in the correct place, is accessible, we're going to be in real trouble. So what does the customer need from this? And this is why I believe this is a real Azure play, is we need to help our customers understand and clarify their data-driven AI goals, and then help them understand what is where and migrate that into Azure, or give Azure access to that data. Because most customers don't understand where their data is. There's something siloed somewhere, and then we're not giving AI access to that data. So I've kind of visualized it in this statement here, which is what we think will happen when we adopt Copilot. So our customer purchases a Copilot license, and we think the scenario on the left is what we're going to get. This AI-powered organization that has the right answers at the right time and drives real value. When actually, we don't know that half the data actually looks like the scenario on the right. There's a server somewhere in a dark cupboard of their office that's running SQL or has like a file share on it that's not connected into the cloud. And that's the crucial piece, is not connected into the cloud. So it means that Copilot can't see any of the data sat on these siloed data stores, which means if you're working on projects that are reliant on that SQL data, or you have projects in file stores and you're asking Copilot to give you insightful, driven responses that you need. So let's say, for example, you're building a project scope and you ask Copilot, hey, can you build me a project scope for this project that we're working on? And I want you to reference these files. If it cannot access those files because they are siloed, they're not cloud connected, they're completely inaccessible, it's not going to be able to give you the right response. So paying for your Copilot license doesn't mean that it can do all of the things that you need it to do. So we need to make sure that we're addressing the current state of the partner and the current state of the customer to find out what is where, how do we move those into Azure or Cloud Connect using Azure Arc to make sure that Copilot can see that data and give you real value-driven answers. So the solution is relatively simple. We need to work with our pro services team or your own internal technical teams to do data estate assessments. So the first step on the Azure adoption journey is that building the strategy, understanding what they want out of it and what the outcomes are. Step 2 is that data transformation piece. How do we understand what is where, do the right assessments, help the customer understand what they need to do to move their data into the cloud, make it Azure enabled through Azure Arc, or just lift and shift straight into Azure, hopefully with some modernization sprinkled in. And then we can adopt things like Copilot and AI solutions to really drive value from that. So this is something that our pro services team can help with if it's not something you're familiar with doing. But if you're having an AI or a Copilot conversation with your customers, having the data conversation is a really massive opportunity, and it helps them get the most out of their AI solutions. The last thing we want is you to deploy AI, them to use it for 6 months, not feel the value, either stop consuming that or go to a partner who can help them drive the most value out of that AI solution. So the data conversation is crucial. So making sure we don't skip over step 2 and make sure we're taking stock of what is where and helping the customer build a plan to move into cloud. So I teased this at the beginning, Copilot for Microsoft Azure. This is a new kind of SKU for Copilot that is coming, and it's going to be built directly into the Azure platform. This is going to help you do lots of different things. So we don't have an exact date right now. We teased this a little bit on the monthly update. So I'll show you kind of what we ran through last month, which is the main things that Copilot can do. So think of this as literally your Azure wingman, right? So troubleshoot, help support. This is going to be monitoring. It's going to be insights. You can automate tasks, accelerate deployment, all of that good stuff. So we've already seen some of our partners who are in the private preview using this to script to kind of check compliance of environments, check for industry best practice, help them become more efficient in their builds and supporting customers, even do remediation tasks. So can you help me understand what happened with this security alert? And it'll kind of break that down. So the tool is going to be extremely powerful. At the moment, we don't know when it's going to land, but we are hoping to get some information within the next couple of weeks. And the reason this is kind of important for us is next week we have our Azure Bootcamp. So the Azure Bootcamp is a very popular bootcamp at Pax8. Last time we ran this, we had just shy of 1,000 registrations. So I am hoping to tip that point for this Azure Bootcamp. But the reason I bring this up specifically now is we are hoping to have some announcements from Microsoft before this bootcamp. We have Microsoft coming and presenting on Azure Copilot and Security Copilot. The agenda is available at that link, and we'll get that dropped into the chat for you as well. If Azure Copilot is of interest to you, I strongly encourage you to register for this bootcamp. We have lots of cool content, but the Azure Copilot content is one of the last things on the agenda, and we're hoping to get Microsoft to come in and spill some beans about some of the secret stuff coming up. Cool, and I'll be handing over to Matt to talk to you a little bit more around Copilot for sales. Matt, are you here?
Appreciate it, Elliot. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And yeah, so going to be talking a little bit about Copilot for sales and Copilot for service, just to kind of reintroduce myself, everything that Elliot said, but on the biz app side, so Global GTM Director for Microsoft Business Applications. So just to kind of talk a little bit about the Copilot for sales and Copilot for service, I think it's really important to, we see all these great statistics around, 85% of employees want digital tools. And actually, in terms of those that are using AI-powered tools and automation, 89% of users, employees using these tools feel much more fulfilled. And Copilot for sales and Copilot for service is a great solution that's really enabling that. Now, what I will say is that these tools are available within Dynamics 365. So if a user is using Dynamics 365 sales or Dynamics 365 customer service, then the Copilot functionality is built into that. But they do have these standalone solutions as well that you can buy, and you can see here on the slide if a user is using the likes of Salesforce, ServiceNow, or Zendesk, they integrate in and really enable you to maximize the data collection for Copilot. So, as Elliot mentioned then, I really like that slide of the old dusty server in a room somewhere and then AI. It's very, very similar here where we're talking about how can you maximize your data collection and actually integrate these tools with Microsoft 365 and with Copilot as well to maximize that. But in terms of what kind of functionality that you get with Sales for Copilot, being able to update records. So, really be able to take information out of Outlook and Teams and sync it straight into your CRM platform. I often talk about with Copilot, it's incredible. When I say Copilot, I mean Microsoft 365 Copilot, absolutely incredible. The functionality that you have, but sometimes that's kind of where the story ends. So for example, being able to just take notes on Teams without typing them. You start to add in Dynamics 365 sales or Sales for Copilot, Copilot for sales, then you can actually take those notes, seamlessly get those into your CRM solution, and then instantly draft up an email as a follow-up to that call. When you look at the age that we live in, where 70% of a seller's time is spent not selling, being able to streamline and speed up a lot of those processes is absolutely crucial. And then even things like being able to create and share contact cards, and then also being able to collaborate seamlessly. So being able to, again, utilize Copilot for sales right from within Teams as well. And then just going on to the Copilot for service side of things, again, being able to access your knowledge. So again, using tools that you're using all the time, like Teams and Outlook, but being able to access with integrations into Salesforce, ServiceNow and Zendesk, so you can access those files. It's also because of the functionality and the AI functionality that sits within Copilot for Service, it's extremely quick to get up and running and start adding value instantly. And as well, be able to customize your needs. So be able to customize the whole customer service process using these tools. So fantastic solutions across the board. And I just want to really clarify that again, that you do, if you're using Dynamics 365 sales or Dynamics 365 customer service, these tools are built in. So it is a standalone solution, but also it sits, within those applications. So you can just utilize those. And again, the expected gains for agents and salespeople that are actually using these is, between 30 and 50% increase in productivity. And 29% of all labor can be automated. So just really want to highlight some benefits there in terms of utilizing these tools. But in terms of how you can get these, there's a couple of different models here for Copilot, whether that's as an add-on to Copilot for Microsoft 365, where your the transaction is $30 per user per month as almost an attach to Copilot for Microsoft 365, or as standalone $50 per user per month for Copilot for Sales or Copilot for Service. And again, I know I've said it multiple times, I just really want to stress the fact that if a user is using Dynamics 365 Sales, they do not have to buy Copilot for Sales also. It's already built into those solutions. So just want to highlight some of the licensing there. In terms of when this all went live, March the 1st, so we are well into Copilot for Sales and Copilot Service territory. So, if you do have any questions, please do reach out to your account manager or anyone at Pax8 that can support you. Happy to engage offline and just help you in terms of licensing or how to approach customers. I will say Microsoft's done a really good job with these tools in terms of the Dynamics 365 partner portal. That is up and running with pitch decks, with demos, with all sorts of things that you can use in how to approach this with your customers and which customers to best approach using tools like Cloud Ascent. So there's a lot of ways to enable you to go to market with these tools, but they are available on the CSP price list, all available now. There's no minimum order size, available as attached to Business Standard, Business Premium, E3 and E5 for Office Microsoft 365. And then just to round off my section before handing off, again, kind of touched on some of this in terms of how do you get started. That AI ready piece is huge. Elliot's done a really good job. I'm not going to repeat all the stuff that Elliot talked about, but again, me and him definitely agree that Copilot is phenomenal, but having data tidied up and being able to maximize the usage of that data is extremely key when it comes to Copilot. If you don't trust the data, you can't trust the AI that's built off the back of it. By Copilot for Microsoft 365, I've got to get used to all these different names. By those solutions, prepare your customers for AI adoption. That comes back to everything that Elliot talked about on the previous slides. Follow the growth of Copilot for Microsoft Azure. Build AI skills with Copilot on the web. I will also say, again, Microsoft's done a really good job in terms of training, enablement. The documentation for these solutions are phenomenal. So if you need access to any of those tools or resources, by all means, reach out to me directly or reach out to your CAM, and we'll make sure that you have access to those. If you have interest in, building a practice around this or adding this to your practice, there's a lot out there that can really support you. And then get ready for Microsoft Security Copilot as well. I always I'm going to end with the shocking statistic that only 4% of businesses have sufficient cloud security for all of their data in the cloud. So there's a huge opportunity from a security perspective, and really important in terms of that AI readiness message. So I am going to hand off now to Jake to talk all about demystifying Defender. Jake, over to you, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let me get this going here. So going along with all of this Copilot direction, kind of all the directions that Microsoft is kind of taking Copilot and kind of where everything really sits, it is very important to bring security into this entire conversation. A great way to do that is to bring in Microsoft Defender-based products. One of the tricky things that can happen with Defender is there's a lot of SKUs with them. There's a lot of things to think about, a lot of things to really go through. So that's kind of where we're going to hop in here. As we kind of all know, hybrid work is just here. There's a lot of people going back into office. There's a lot of people kind of like myself, where in office a couple days a week, out of office the rest of the week. It's very important to kind of have that. And I think one of the gaps that people are still kind of having a little bit is just making sure that we can't, that we can kind of manage everything and make sure that we're keeping everything in focus without the need of kind of primary servers, kind of pushing all of that out. Maintaining that flexibility is becoming very critical to kind of today's components. One of the problems with that is, since a lot of it's not coming from internal infrastructure, we're having to enforce from other areas. Azure AD is the primary focus nowadays. But the problem, as you can kind of see on screen here, is that 78% of identities lack strong authentication. What does that mean? Users are really just using usernames and passwords. MFA is not being enforced. We're not using conditional access to its fullest. We're not really kind of enforcing things where we need to be enforcing them. And that is causing some issues. That is kind of where Microsoft is really coming in to help with their line of Defender products to kind of bring things in. What you really want to be aiming for is kind of aiming within basic security hygiene. So the numbers kind of state that basic hygiene sits within or prevents about 98% of attacks. And that is just simple methods of utilizing anti-malware, least privilege access, only giving people access what they need access into and stripping out the rest, making sure that people are using multi-factor authentication. It is almost to a point where there's no reason to not run multi-factor authentication anymore. Versioning updates and data protections. Those are also very critical when it comes into kind of Copilot accesses, especially the protecting data component. You don't always want to just focus on protecting data from the outside. You want to protect it from the inside as well. You want to make sure that your HR documents are not being accessed by anybody in sales. You want to make sure that sensitive employee records are going to actually be limited out. There are some things inside of Copilot that if you are not running those same types of protections, it can make it a lot easier for users to get into that type of data. The one big issue that some people tend to have with Defender is there's a lot of products. This is all of the products that are kind of offered. The primary focuses that we'll kind of chat about is Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, and Defender for Cloud and Cloud Apps, as well as Defender for Office 365. Just running through the list very quickly, Defender for Endpoint is going to be your kind of malware protection. It's going to be your very simplified deployment. It's going to be where you can actually do your kind of frontline defense when you are deploying out machines that are maybe managed through Intune or managed through an alternative method that are not checking into a domain. This is going to be a great way to be able to kind of deploy this out, maintain it, monitor it, and make sure that everything is all good to go. You're managing your vulnerabilities. You have your detection and response. You can go through your investigations kind of all in one pane of glass as opposed to going through multiple different components. Defender for Identity is going to be another very big piece that is going to really help kind of make sure that you are dealing with your compromised threats. You're going to deal with potential insider activities. You also can throw in multi-factor authentication. You can throw in conditional access pieces onto this. This is going to help you protect your users where they sign in. So if they are signing in through a phishing attempt, this will help block out that specific sign-in and prevent those kind of credential theft issues. Defender for Office 365 is probably the other most common ones to really have in here because this is going to be more your communication based. So making sure that email messages are legitimate, making sure that links are not going to be redirecting all over the place and potentially leading to credential harvesting or any of those type of ideas. Defender for Cloud and for Cloud Apps is going to be a little bit more of your cloud specific structure, where that is going to be more your application focuses, your DevSecOps, your just DevOps in general. Defender for Cloud Apps is going to help you with your cloud access security. It's going to help you log in all of your critical components along with APIs and all of those things where you may have applications that are not Microsoft ran tied into your tenant, but making sure that those are actually coming through and are being properly monitored and logged correctly. You notice I did kind of gloss over the Defender for Business side. Defender for Business is a phenomenal structure, especially in the SMB market, because this is actually going to be included in Business Premium that is actually going to give you bits and pieces of almost all of these. It is going to help you with your identity management. It's going to help you with your phishing restrictions and all of these things. And it's going to help you get small components of all of this without having to subscribe to every single one of these components. It's going to help you out when you are that small to medium-sized business with under 300 users, where they just need a little bit of extra help in every capacity without going crazy with all of the licensing as necessary. Hopping into the Defender for Office 365, these are all of the components. Obviously, won't dive into each one of these, but the huge ones are going to be your edge protection and your content filtering, sender intelligence. These are going to be things that kind of help you state like, hey, these messages are coming from who they say they're coming from, and they're going to who they say they're going to. And it is also going to make sure that that content that is coming in and out is appropriately protected. So this is probably one of the more critical components. Again, this is also included primarily in the Business Premium Suite, which is, again, why you kind of hear people hammer on that point so much, because it is pretty much the best possible layer of protection for yourself, for your clients, for anybody in that small to medium-sized business. Yep, and going into the Defender for Business pieces, these are kind of the overarching areas that it will give you. Threat and vulnerability management, like ASR rules, so attack surface reduction, next-gen protections, EDR, and automatic investigations and remediations. It is just going to kind of help you take in that elevation. It's going to help you really get a lot of these things going. Again, with Copilot coming, these will give you critical steps up above most other industries. That is going to help you really just get everything in line. And it, as we've kind of mentioned with Defender for Business being included with Business Premium, here's just kind of some of the components that are, again, really in here. It is going to give you all of these pieces. So enterprise grade endpoint security. It sounds kind of corny the way it's phrased, but that is what this is. It is going to give you all of these sides. Again, the really big things that it provides to you is Defender for Business mixed with Intune, mixed with Entra ID Plan 1, which gives you that very critical piece of conditional access, as well as allowing for just kind of these other niceties to really have in here to make sure you're not losing any of that management. You are able to enroll your devices, you're able to keep your users protected on those devices, and you're really able to just keep everything going through very straightforward. So it never hurts to kind of also have the abilities within Autopilot, AVD licensing, shared computer activation to make sure you're not having to repurchase software over and over. You can actually kind of go into more shared structures, as well as having Windows licensing included as well. So getting the most out of Business Premium is really, again, all of these pieces that we've kind of touched on, everything I've kind of thrown in here, with the addition of bringing in the conversation of Lighthouse. Lighthouse is another phenomenal component that can really help smaller MSPs especially kind of take in their SMB customers and help them manage them, again, all in one place. It can help you with a lot of specific onboarding, give you very specific baselines that you don't have to just constantly go in and do the button mashing of redeploying each time. It's going to make this a lot simpler. And then it just gives you, again, that single pane of glass. You're not having to kind of bounce in and out of tenants over and over and over. You're able to just take a holistic view of everything all at once without really having to dive too far into a specific tenant and having to get your hands too dirty in there. This will kind of give you that full overarching view. Same thing with Intune and the dashboards and identity protection, all these things. This is where Business Premium kind of really shines and becomes a very large value add for most, if not all, smaller markets as MSPs, kind of wherever you're really looking to really up that security level. So going in and securing these, this is just kind of some numbers that Microsoft does like to throw out and just kind of give, that, again, view of these. Having that visibility, it's 86% of those 10 surveyed actually believe their security strategy doesn't keep up with multi-cloud environments. And then as far as, breaches and things of that, 4.2 million is the average cost of a breach. Again, we've kind of really had a very large focus on the smaller market with talking about Business Premium. There's very few, if any, of these kind of smaller organizations that can kind of suffer that cost of a loss. Having this is a very scary and very important idea to keep in mind and kind of have present when you're kind of thinking about, is this really important? Do I really need to dive this far into protecting my identities, deploying out a malware solution when Windows provides something for free and I can just tell my users to be careful? This is kind of the cost that can come in with kind of having that mindset and not adjusting out to kind of stating, well, maybe we don't really want to have to pay for the licenses, or maybe we don't want to have to frame things. Again, these costs, it's an average cost in here for a reason. This is kind of what the impacts really are starting to have with these smaller markets. And those are kind of the ones that are suffering the most when these situations do end up coming up. Defender for Cloud is going to be a little bit more of a piece that is going to give you more DevOps security. It helps you with that posture. And it is not just Microsoft focused. This actually can help you out pretty much anywhere you may have a backbone infrastructure, anywhere that you are running development, anywhere you're running code infrastructures. This can help with all of these things. It can work on premise. It can work with Amazon, Azure, all of these pieces, and really give you kind of that full scale security overview that you're looking for. Obviously, this is aiming a little bit more towards the mature side and a little bit more of the kind of cloud full infrastructure, but that is also one of the more important things to remember. Just because it is in the cloud does not make it inherently safe. So having these type of backups with Defender for Cloud apps, these are going to be the pieces that actually let you worry a little bit less than what other structures might.
Hey, Jake, I've got a question in the chat if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So, and I don't know for sure if we have the insight here, but we can definitely take a look. This one is asking, do you know when the M365 Lighthouse granular permissions for the partner side are going to be released? Currently, it needs a global admin to manage it on the partner tenant side. So it's asking just kind of like, do we have any idea into the roadmap of when the granular permissions are going to be released?
That, I will be honest, I do not know. That I have not quite seen that full roadmap. I do know that it is coming. That's kind of about the only answer I really have.
I kind of figured, but I wanted to get it from you
Yeah.
while I had you here. We're going to keep on rolling through. Elliot, I see you popping in.
Yeah. So Lighthouse is something I've been chatting to Microsoft about a decent amount. It's a powerful tool, but Microsoft, by their own admission, are building it almost for a direct partner play, right? And they know this is an issue and it's something they're working to address. So this is a conversation I have with Microsoft regularly about how can we make sure this tool tiers itself appropriately. So when we have an indirect provider, a reseller, and then a customer, we have the right permissions to access through. So whilst this isn't a concrete answer for you, I'm sorry, but we are actually chatting to them to make sure that we're doing what we can to make sure these tools function in that way. So it's an issue Microsoft are aware of, and we're working with them pretty regularly to make sure that when tools like Lighthouse continue to grow and continue to get more valuable, we want to make sure that we can put them in the hands of our partners. So it is one of the topics that's always on my list to chat to Microsoft about.
Awesome. Thanks, Elliot. Will you grab the roadmap link as well and throw that into the chat just so we have that available? And then Jake, we're going to throw it back to you so you can keep on rolling.
Awesome. Yeah, great questions. Always very important to kind of keep that roadmap in mind and kind of know at least what's coming down the pipe. But we'll kind of get back onto the Defender train here. We'll talk about Defender for Endpoint. This is actually it's not really a new product, but it is one that I think a lot of people are still new to. Again, with this just within the last year or so, kind of getting included into the Defender for Business SKUs, this has now gotten a lot more exposure. And what this has kind of really come through is, the most common question that I have gotten with my time on the professional services team has been, what antivirus do we prefer? What do we want to run with? Kind of where do we want to go? And my overall opinion is it does very much come down to personal preference, as long as you're running something, that is being managed. And honestly, this is kind of now getting to a point where this is included in a lot of people's licensing. It is entirely up to you if you want to go through and kind of scale out. Do we want to replace a current product? Do we want to deploy out a product? The answer should always be yes. We should always be deploying out a product. But in terms of do we need to replace, I'd definitely recommend, if you have business premium licensing, toy around with it. It is a very strong infrastructure that gives you very strong remediation tools and investigation tools. As you can kind of see with some of the recommendations that have come in here around compatibility, this is probably the most common question is, can I run SentinelOne? Can I run this other product alongside Defender? It is not recommended. It is something that I have tested and it works fine. I would not do this in a production environment. Kind of as it is saying here in kind of this middle row here, if you are running a non-Microsoft product, it is not recommended to run these. But I do recommend test it out on a device. Pick a non-in-production device. test it out here if you have the licensing for it and just kind of show off what it can really do for your internal environment. Same thing with, if you're already running Defender for antivirus, you do not really need to actually undo a lot of things. You will have to make sure you're kind of bringing in the appropriate ones. If you are running the Defender for business side, you do need to actually bring in that specific utility. It is important to note that they are different utilities. But yeah, just making sure that you can go through and actually kind of run these out and just kind of know what your infrastructure is running and setting together a plan. Running this has actually been an incredibly strong part. Again, I'm a very, very big proponent of single pane of glass views and making sure that I don't have to go to all sorts of different panels. And these are phenomenal ways to make sure you're not losing any of that security-based edge while also just running everything in the Microsoft ecosystem. And that's kind of where Defender for Endpoint really helps. There is also the Defender for Server side. Another thing that I really recommend people look into. Defender for Endpoint is not just workstation based. You can also make sure that you are running this with your server infrastructure as well. This does work with both Windows and Linux based. So it does not have to be in Azure. It does not have to be on premise. I have helped people set this up inside of AWS, but it does also work basically just any server environment anywhere. It has a very heavy endpoint integration. It is still considered endpoint security, but it is going to be for your server structures. So if you are interested in kind of running this along with your server infrastructure, here's some of the additional benefits that you do gain from this. Probably a favorite tool that comes along with this is network mapping, to be able to kind of see everything inside your local infrastructure and kind of where all of that traffic is really coming in and out of. Where all of this kind of really leads to is pointing back in with CIS controls. I think that CIS controls is one of the more important conversations that we have kind of struck up at Pax8 within this last year or so, if not longer. You all probably hear Matt Lee shout from the rooftops about how important it is to have at least some form of framework. CIS controls is a great way to do that. And Microsoft Business Premium actually gives you a very strong leg up to start implementing a lot of these controls. As you can kind of see on the screen here, you're going through and securing devices, securing your collaboration, making sure that your identities are all being secured, as well as your BYOD devices. You're making sure that all of anything that's touching your internal infrastructure is all going to be secured, accessing things in an appropriate way, and also making sure that you are ready to go, which is AI readiness. That is a very important part here. This one pager here is also a piece of an offering that we do kind of have with Pax8 Professional Services to kind of help with AI readiness, make sure that we are ready to go by putting in some very early controls that is fully compatible with Business Premium licensing. And this is kind of a little bit of a deeper dive of what we are looking into here, making sure, again, the primary components here, MFA security, being able to potentially switch over to passwordless authentication, I think is also a phenomenal step forward. Geofencing out any of your kind of access. So if you are primarily United States based, you can make sure that all of your incoming sign-ins are coming from the United States and is just automatically rejecting everything else without you having to go through and actually kind of hit the reject button or make sure you catch something in time. Making sure that you're actually protecting your BYOD devices, and making sure that conditional access is controlling those, making sure that we are utilizing the applications that we need to be using, and also making sure that we are deploying Windows 10 in a very strong baseline format. And then lastly, just making sure that that Defender for Office piece is making sure that we are keeping everything kind of where it needs to be. We are not having users direct links or clicking on safe links. Same thing for attachments, making sure that the attachments that are coming into our environment are actually fully protected. And also making sure that anything kind of phishing, making sure that the CEO asking for gift cards actually would be the CEO, as opposed to just making sure that it is just somebody in general. So making sure we're kind of having that protection and really saving your users from themselves, I think, are very important pieces to remember with a lot of this security infrastructure. So I think that just about wraps up everything that I kind of have here. If anybody has any questions, obviously let us all know. Let us know at Professional Services as well. We're always happy to help out with anything we might have.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jake, for being with us today. I am really excited to go ahead and push it over to MailGuard. And Mark, thank you so much for being with us today.
No worries. Look, thank you very much, guys. Thanks, Kristen, and thanks for that presentation, Jake. It kind of leads directly into the MailGuard 365 piece. MailGuard 365, as a quick intro, we enhance the protection of Microsoft 365 inboxes, providing advanced email security across a spectrum of users from SMB all the way through government, health and education. Just a quick note about myself. My name's Anwar Ibrahim. I'm a Director of Service Delivery and Global Partner Enablement. Pretty much lead strategic partnerships, and as a role within the business, I've been around MailGuard for 17 years, and I'm a cross-functional director which works across multiple departments. The agenda today, there's quite a few slides, but we'll be going through them quite quickly. We'll talk about MailGuard, we'll talk about the solution and how MailGuard 365 can protect Microsoft 365 inboxes in particular. So a little bit about MailGuard. You may or may not have heard of us. We've been a pioneer in cloud email security since 2001. I've been around for quite a bit, 23 years now. We've always adopted a channel-first approach with partners and customers distributed globally. Minimal resource and commitment required from partners and clients for the MailGuard 365 product, but I'll cover that off very shortly. And we were the only cybersecurity vendor invited by Microsoft to join the marketplace pilot, and we'll showcase that at Microsoft Inspire. Just something that we're rather proud of, having Satya talk about our product in particular, and referring to it's the type of innovation that we want to see. Specifically, he was talking about the fact that MailGuard 365 utilizes the Graph API for a seamless integration to enhance the email security for Office 365 users. So from a solution overview point of view, the MailGuard 365 product was built by MailGuard with the team at Microsoft to defend and enhance security for all mailboxes that are on Microsoft 365. It combines 23 years of specialized email security IP from MailGuard with the best of Microsoft. And I think it's really important that I really state here that MailGuard 365 specifically enhances inbox security for Microsoft 365, regardless of the security stack that may be in place. And again, I'll go into what that means in a sec. We've been a recognised leader by Gartner, with having multiple times with analysts identifying MailGuard as an innovative technology leader and a leading cloud email security provider. So I wanted to move into the problem and what problem that MailGuard 365 solves. Businesses are moving to the cloud and adopting Microsoft Office 365, as we all know, at a quite a heavy rate. 94% of malware is still delivered via email. It's massive. It is the biggest entry point for ownage or data breaches and others. And I think Jake touched on quite a few things in his presentation in regards to identity management and making sure that the CEO is not asking for gift cards and a few other things like that. And that's really where we come in and enhance that security that's being offered by Microsoft. And the fact is 9 out of 10 businesses are impacted by phishing despite having other email security vendors in place. It really is a defense in-depth strategy that needs to be adopted around email security. No one vendor is able to protect 100% from threats coming in via email. So how does it work? It needs to be not complicated. So MailGuard 365 is an integrated cloud email security product. We work on the inside of Office 365 on Azure. It works via Microsoft API calls. It simply rescans every single email that reaches the end user's inbox for phishing, ransomware, and sophisticated BEC attacks. Now that's regardless of the security stack that you may have in place. You may have something on the perimeter, you may have EOP, you may have Defender. MailGuard 365 works in conjunction with all of these products, or it works as a standalone as well. It's a few clicks within the Pax8 marketplace to turn the product on from a partner client point of view. And there's no end user training required, which is really important. We worked in conjunction with partners globally when developing this with Microsoft. Partners were asking for a set and forget solution, something to simply enhance their email security without them having to manage it. And we provide evidence-based reporting on the stopping power. So really from a business point of view, it's a collaborative multi-vendor, multi-layer approach. Again, we sit on the inside of Office 365, regardless of the security that you may have at the moment. We simply rescan the message, and from an employee's point of view, nothing changes. MailGuard 365 simply moves that threat to junk or to deleted, depending on the severity of that threat coming through. And from an admin's point of view, it's just simply a matter of looking at the evidence-based reporting to see what MailGuard has actioned. And yeah, and you can see that, and also I'll go into that a bit later on with a few screenshots. But really, when it comes to email security, speed matters. And MailGuard 365 has been proven to be up to 48 hours faster than most providers out there. Now, it's really important to say that because when it comes to email security, what we've seen, it only takes a few minutes for an end user to get an email and action it. Once it's been actioned, sometimes there's an immediate reaction and the computer is taken over. But most of the times when they click a link for phishing and a drive-by download happens, nothing may happen until a couple of days later when that threat reaches out to a command and control server from a global criminal network. So it's really important that we move these messages out of harm's way immediately, and that's where the speed matters comes into it. Just from a demonstrated advantage of stopping threats, look, Microsoft does a really good job in stopping the majority of threats coming through to end users, but from their own admission and also admissions from other organisations, no one organisation can stop all threats from coming through. And like Jake was saying, it's really, really important from an Office 365 point of view and an email point of view that there are protections in place. And it's important because that average breach of 4.2 million, it's real. It is average, and it depends on the size of the organisation and the sort of breach. Some of the breaches that we hear about out in the market, as soon as it happens, that brand reputation, which is a non-tangible monetary hit that an organisation may take, may be just enough to knock out that business. And it's one email that can do that. It's just a single email that can bring down an organisation. So from a stopping point of view, see, MailGuard 365 has got many customers that have Defender turned on, have Defender not turned on, have other security in place. And again, MailGuard 365 does not see itself as a compete. We are a collaborative tool. In this instance here, we've all probably seen these emails come through, really well branded criminal email purporting to be from Microsoft Outlook. We saw with evidence it being delivered to the inbox of a Microsoft 365 user with all the bells and whistles turned on. It was detected within the same millisecond by MailGuard 365, and it was moved out of harm's way. It took 20 hours later for Defender to come back in this instance and then move it to quarantine. What we've done though is we've moved it out of harm's way, ensuring that the end user did not make that one mistake that may be the one email to bring down an organisation. And I must really reiterate, from a positioning point of view, we all know customers are going to make decisions based on budgetary requirements. They're going to make decisions based on experience, and they're going to make decisions based on what you as a partner would recommend out to what they use. MailGuard 365, it's really important that we complement the Microsoft 365 security stack. It's not a this or that. It can be a this or that, but with MailGuard 365, we acknowledge the fact that it takes more than a single vendor to really impact the amount of threats coming through to an inbox. Again, it was built in conjunction with the team at Microsoft, and it really holds that native Microsoft 365 user experience. It's an seamless implementation, and there's no training required all the way through. So just from an illustration point of view, starting on the left-hand side, moving in. So an email may traverse through the internet, the dark, scary internet, make it into a traditional security product that may sit on the outside. So the customer may have a traditional product that sits there. Clean email is meant to come through at that point through to Microsoft, and the customer may have EOP and Defender. And depending on what they have, what they don't have, like I stated earlier, MailGuard 365 sits on the inside of Office 365 and simply rescans every email that's made it past the security stack prior. And what's really important about this is the fact that we are one of the only organisations in the security space that will present back evidence-based reporting through our console, which means that we pride ourselves on being that last line of defence. And we're more than happy to display what we've actually actioned to show in real time and real world examples of what's happening. So just from a real world example point of view, so I just think it's really impactful to show the sort of emails that do come through, and this will resonate with a lot of the partners on the call, and a lot of your clients would have seen these come through as well. And these emails have all made it through existing security stacks, and we see this happening all the time. Look, I really need to reiterate again, by no means am I saying that the Microsoft Security Suite aren't doing an awesome job. They absolutely are. MailGuard 365 lives, breathes email security. That's what we do. We were built specifically to enhance the security stack that a customer may have, and specifically enhance the Microsoft security stack. So again, showing these making it through the existing security stack of Microsoft by no means is a bashing session at all. It's an acknowledgement, and I think both Microsoft and ourselves acknowledge the fact that a better together approach is something really needed when it comes to email security. So these are real emails that have made it through to organisations that MailGuard have subsequently picked up, and it's quite interesting what does make it through. And malicious payloads, this one in particular was a JavaScript Trojan, was a drive-by download, and was really nasty. And you know, all it takes again is a single click on a HTML within an email. And yeah, especially with the hybrid work, it really resonated when Jake was saying hybrid's here to stay. It really is, and it makes these collaborative tools even more important from a security perspective, because we've all worked from home recently, obviously, over this period, and you know, I've got a lot of distractions at home, be it from a cat that always wants my attention, or someone at the front door, and it always gets your attention just enough. And if you're not concentrating and an email comes through that looks real, there is always that chance to click it. So it's really important, on top of the training of your end users, to have these products to help protect themselves as well. So we've all probably seen these file sharing scams as well. And again, ironically, you know, criminals target Microsoft because they're a massive organization that have got a lot of uptake with their products. So they make the emails look like they're coming from Microsoft in a lot of the times, because it's what the end users are more comfortable in seeing and more likely to interact with. So again, I'll just click through. A lot of these emails that we had stopped are very nasty, guys, and they look exactly like the security notices that you'd be getting as an end user about passwords. And you know, these ones that keep my password, as we know, end users don't like having to keep multiple passwords and always change it. And you know, in this instance, if you clicked it here, it would have downloaded a drive-by, which would have 100% resulted in a security breach. And that's something that you don't want to have to deal with as a partner looking after your clients. And again, the last one that I'll talk about in this in these emails are the branded ones, which, you know, they're seasonal. You'll see the DHL, the TNTs, the ones come out around holiday time where you're expecting deliveries, and you know, no one's perfect. You know, around two Christmases ago, I ordered something off eBay, and you know, I've been in the industry, specifically this one here, for 18 years now, and I was expecting a delivery, and I got an email from eBay, or purported to be from eBay. This was to my personal email address. And I was looking at it and it looked really good, and I was about to click it and I thought twice. I looked into it and identified that it was a threat. So again, it doesn't matter how experienced you may be, because that's a lot of the pushback you would get. I know we can see these, but criminals are getting smarter. So these tools are very important to use. So again, it's about enhancing the Microsoft security stack. MailGuard 365 is exclusively only available to Microsoft inboxes, available right now through the Pax8 marketplace for easy deployment through to your customers. We integrate with Microsoft Defender for the enhanced user experience. So all the management for the MailGuard 365 product stays within Office 365. So if your end customer is already managing their Office 365, they already can use MailGuard 365. We honor whitelists and blacklists that are created within Microsoft 365. There are no usernames and passwords. Really important, MailGuard 365 uses the Azure Entra identity management. So the logins are all managed by your security posture that you have through Microsoft already. And I think we found that to be a really important feature. We didn't want to make a bigger surface area for attack. So that's why we designed it to be all managed through Microsoft Entra AD, Azure AD. And just quickly, I wanted to just show what the product would look like once it's deployed on the customer side through the Pax8 marketplace. Again, it's been really designed as a set and forget tool. Let us do the hard work. That's the resounding feedback that we got from partners. They're not specialists in email security. They wanted someone that was able to do that for them, so they can concentrate on what their core activities are. But they wanted visibility as to what we were doing, and that's what we've done. So just that's what the dashboard looks like. It simply shows the number of emails that we've rescanned and the messages that we've moved. It also gives you some insightful information as to where the threats may be coming from for your organization on that front page. It'll show you the top targeted email users who within your organization you may need to train a little bit more, or just be very mindful of they're under attack. It shows how many messages have been moved, and once you do click into one of the red sections here, with the additional permissions that you can assign a user as an administrator through the Azure portal. It's all managed via Azure portal and Entra. That administrator can then click in and look at the metadata of the emails that have been moved. And we also present through screenshots, safe screenshots of the messages that we've moved as well. Now, it's really important also to state that no messages ever leave the end user's inbox. So that's really important as well. There's other charts, and again, this presentation will be available to everyone. So I'll just quickly go through these ones here that just demonstrate what the product looks like. You've got that safe email preview. You can also create investigations and remediate emails that you look for as part of investigations. There is something that's not on this slide. We are available through to work with the SEIM product for Microsoft as well. So that's available for integration as well through Sentinel. And you can also build custom reports, so on and so forth. So really moving to the positioning, it's really important to kick off a trial for your customers. Like I said, with everything that I've spoken about today, it's all about that evidence-based reporting. We've got a high 90% conversion from trial. As soon as a customer turns it on, they'll see the threats that are coming through. And we find that after the first couple of days of looking at that evidence-based reporting, they don't even go back to the console after that. They're very, it's a very set and forget service, and literally just enhances that end users and customers protection. It only takes one click. There's plenty of case studies that we can show, but primarily had organisations that were having near misses every second day, turning on MailGuard 365 helped tremendously. I think there was a comment made, help the person sleep at night. That's really what MailGuard 365 does, as 94% of them threats do come through. From a partner proposition, just finalising on a few of these slides here, it's a better together approach with the Microsoft 365 stack. It can be used with or without. again, it's about getting that additional protection in, keeping your customers sticky as well, getting these products in. It's set up with Microsoft credentials. It's unified billing. Your billing will come through Pax8, through to yourself as the partner, obviously to then invoice the clients. There's no changes to your mail flow or infrastructure. It's integrated into Microsoft as a first line product. No email quarantine to manage. Again, it's a native user experience. There's no training. We've got customers of thousands and thousands of seats, for example. They don't even tell their end users it's turned on because it simply works as if Microsoft is doing that protection, which is exactly how we wanted to do it. And it combines the best of Microsoft with the best of MailGuard, who's that specialist email security product. And it's really built for speed and agile. Like I said, speed is that new, transactional thing. Look, with the partner value prop as well, it's really important. Multi-party private offers are coming as well, which is really important, which means if you do have a customer that has a Mac drawdown, especially in the US at the moment with that multi-party private offer, it's available as an IP co-sell, which means it does draw down on that customer's Mac eligibility. And we take your security seriously. MailGuard is a fully certified in the most recent ISO IEC 27001 2022 certification, which is similar in the US as the SOC 2. It's a global recognized standard. So look, I did have quite a few slides there, guys, and I did talk through all of them, and I'm happy to answer any questions today on the call, or if they're sent through to your Pax8 account manager and they're passed through to me, I'm happy to answer them in that way too. But look, from my perspective, thank you for having the opportunity to present through Pax8, and I hope there was some value added there. Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks so much. I do have one question, if you don't mind. It's in the chat. And it's from Richard. Do you recommend the solution stacked on top of M365 email threat protection service, or as a gateway or as a gateway ETP service?
Yeah, look, with a gateway ETP service, just from a clarity point of view, the gateways are typically sitting on the outside of the protection method on DNS level, on the MX level. I do highly recommend that MailGuard 365 be utilized in conjunction with a Microsoft product, but that's not always a requirement. MailGuard 365 can be used on its own as a deployment, and we've seen it being used as an entry to the bigger Defender stack. So like Jack was saying, there's quite a few products as part of that Defender stack. MailGuard 365 is a good way to demonstrate that additional security is required. It's a very low cost product. So from an entry point of view, we see partners utilizing it where someone says, oh no, Defender's a little bit too much for me now. They turn on the MailGuard 365 product through a Pax8 and they'll see, oh wow, there are threats getting through, and then you'll find that they'll take up the other Defender pieces as well. I hope that answered the question.
Excellent, excellent. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today. I think that we've learned a lot, so I'm really, really excited for our continued collaboration between our vendors here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Excellent, excellent. All right, I am going to go ahead and take on over. Here we go. All right, everybody. We've gone through a lot. I know we are coming up here on time. We've answered some questions in the chat as we've gone through. But I do want to talk about Pax8 Momentum because this is a new-ish event to us. I know we still have our boot camps, which Elliot hit on earlier. Make sure you sign up for our Azure one. It is upcoming here soon. But this is also a fantastic event that's going to be really aimed towards, hey, it's not as technical as those boot camps. It's not as entry level as maybe those launch briefings. So if you're a business owner, I think this is a really great event for you to check out. So please make sure, go read about it, learn a little bit, and it would be great to have you attend one of these events with us. Next, I am sure that you have all heard about Beyond. We had such a stellar turnout in 2023. I'm so excited for 2024. We've got two different options. If you want to come to Denver, I am really excited. I'm hoping our whole team will be there. There's so many vendors going to be there, a ton of great technical tracks. You've got security. We've got a ton of stuff lined up. We also have Beyond Berlin. So make sure you go to pax8beyond.com, check out those events. Really excited. If you are not already signed up, one in Denver. I'm going to get this out. The one in Denver is June 9th through 11th. So please make sure you block off that calendar now. Hands-on labs. This is one of our ways of enabling you as partners. Please make sure that you are signing up for these. They're free to you as a partner. These are available across the globe in every region. These right here are specific to North America, but reach out to your account teams. Make sure that we can go ahead and get your spot reserved. Would love to get you involved in our hands-on labs. Now, shameless plug here. So every Thursday, Cam Goldman and I do a show called Technically Unraveled. I posted it in the chat earlier, but we do a lot of different stuff. So you can see just in this quick little screen grab, there's a lot of stuff on Copilot. So we did a really deep dive with Craig Kreskis. We went through the new parts of Copilot that really are going into business applications. We were going to talk about Microsoft Copilot prompting today with Britain, or not today, this week with Britain. So please make sure you check those out. Really excited to continue the learning journey through Technically Unraveled. I'm going to pause here for just a moment because there are a lot of resources here. Now, this is available to you. Want to make sure that we are getting you anything that you need as far as links, resources, guides, documents. Your account team is going to have access to all of these, but you can also take a quick little screen grab if you need. Now, I did think that we hit most of our Q&A as well. I do see one question that we have, and it's talking about the Beyond Hotel reservation. Reach out to your account team and they will get you taken care of. Thank you so much for your participation today. We look forward to seeing you on the next upcoming week. Make sure you join us. We are going to be here with you live in April, but until then, we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.